Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. I just want to post a quick video today because this is actually really big news. I'm going to give myself a small pat on the back because back in July of this year, I actually recommended that Tesla should open source and create a standard out of their charging connector, the Tesla supercharger, which is now NACS, or North America Charging Standard. We had talked about things like USA and things like that, different sort of acronyms for this. But basically, they've created a mechanical and electrical standard from the Tesla charger, which is the long tubular shaped thing, which, if you go down here, that's what it looks like, the part that we're used to. And of course, the receiving end of it, which actually goes into a vehicle. So, this is the kind of standard. As opposed to this, they actually have a picture down here of the CCS2 standard, which is, ridiculously large, much less powered. I didn't realize this, but apparently this thing can do up to 1 megawatt of DC charging. So it can actually charge like a Tesla semi at the 1 megawatt scale rather than the common 250 kilowatt scale, which is currently what's enabled. Anyway, I'm going to put a link to my video from July at the end of this video, which I highly recommend watching. It goes into all the reasons why Tesla should do this. And basically, they kind of restate this in this article right here. So I'm very excited about the fact that they decided to do this, because who actually listens to somebody like little old me? But this is really fantastic news, just a couple of hours old. Anyway, let's go ahead and read this. With more than a decade of use and 20 billion EV charging miles to its name, the Tesla charging connector is the most proven in North America, offering AC charging or alternating current charging and up to 1 megawatt of DC charging in one slim package. It has no moving parts. That's actually really critical. The CCS actually has a little button you have to push, and I think that might be the only moving part, but it is something that can break. Anyway, the Tesla charging standard, or NACS now, has no moving parts, is half the size, and twice as powerful as the combined charging system, or CCS connectors. In pursuit of our mission to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy, which is exactly what I had talked about in my previous video, their mission is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy, and one of the ways to do that is to create elegant standards so that things are not clunky and awkward and all of that kind of stuff. And the Tesla charging system, or again, NACS now, is an elegant charging standard. It's much better. And at the time, I didn't even realize that it was actually a standard that would work up to 1 megawatt of charging speed. So anyway, it's better than I had even thought. Anyway, continuing on, today we are opening our EV connector design to the world. We invite charging network operators and vehicle manufacturers to put the Tesla charging connector and charge port, so again, that would go into the vehicle itself, now called the North American Charging Standard, or NACS, on their equipment and vehicles. NACS is the most common charging standard in North America. NACS vehicles outnumber CCS 2-to-1, and Tesla's supercharging network has 60% more NACS posts than all the CCS equipped networks combined. So the only problem I'll really say is that NACS doesn't really roll off the tongue particularly well. Seems like they could have come up with SCAN, like Standard Charging America North or something. That would be what the French would do. Anyway, it would sound much better. But aside from the fact that it really doesn't roll off the tongue, I'm sure people will come up with their own brand names or something like that. But anyway, the vehicles that use NACS, which is just Teslas at this point, outnumber CCS 2-to-1. So that's the number of cars on the road. So if you take all the Teslas, there are twice as many of those as there are cars that drive with CCS adapters. And as this sentence notes, Tesla's supercharging network has 60% more posts, in other words, more connectors, than all of the CCS equipment networks combined. So it's basically 160%, or, more than 1.5 times more than all the CCS posts in the entire country or globe. It's not exactly clear because it says North American standard, whereas they could be talking about globally or something, but I have a feeling they're probably talking about the United States in particular, even though they talk about globally for their mission to use this standard. Network operators already have plans in motion to incorporate NACS at their chargers, so Tesla owners can look forward to charging at other networks without adapters. And that's actually interesting. That means that even though they've just announced this, plans have been underway for a while. So who knows, maybe since July or something, right? I might have just happened to notice this at the same time that Tesla was like, you know what, we should actually make this happen as well. So I'm not taking any credit for them listening to me. I'm just saying that we might have been thinking about the same things at the same time. Similarly, we look forward to future electric vehicles incorporating the NACS design and charging at Tesla's North American supercharging and destination charging networks. So of course, this will be great for all vehicles. It's, again, as I compared it to gas stations, if you went to one gas station and there was like a square connector and the other one had a circular one and the other one had a triangular one, and you had to go to the right gas station to get the right thing to stick into the gas to fill up the gas, it would be super annoying. So if this can become a standard, it's a much better standard than CCS2 as in the United States, but B, it's also just going to be very nice that people can just have one charger. But note that Tesla says that they're working with network operators, not with vehicle manufacturers. So essentially they're kind of doing an end around. So if you think about Ford, GM, and Toyota, et cetera, those guys are not going to be particularly happy about installing Tesla's charging standard. So one of the things they've done is they've made this North American charging standard instead of Tesla's charging standard. But the other thing they're doing is they're working with network operators, which is like, EVgo, Electrify America, other ones, I'm sure, so that if they have that, they're going to force the vehicle manufacturers to put that port in, or people will have to carry around a stupid adapter and they won't really appreciate that, and they'll be less likely to buy that vehicle because they'll be like, oh man, I have to connect an adapter every single time I want to use this to charge up. So anyway, I for one think it's very clever that they're working with network operators rather than trying to go directly to the vehicle manufacturers. They'll just get the vehicle manufacturers for free if all of the charging stations in the country or potentially the globe, certainly they talk about North America, so it certainly could be Mexico and Canada and the United States. So at least in that area, they could be talking about making all of them that way. And once they do that, vehicle manufacturers will have to follow suit. And if they do that in the United States and North America in general, that's such a big market that there's a good likelihood that they'll just go ahead and spread that to the globe just to make things easier. And finally, we get to the technical stuff. As a purely electrical and mechanical interface, agnostic to use case and communication protocol. So basically what they're saying is this is just a piece of plastic and metal and electrical cables and things like that. It doesn't care what protocol you use, how you charge with it, the particular use case up to 1 megawatt of charging, all of that kind of stuff. This is just a purely mechanical device. Again, to use an analogy with a gas station, it's like the hose and the metal thing that you stick into your gas tank. It doesn't care whether you're using Exxon gasoline or Mobil gasoline or Shell gasoline, right? It doesn't care what kind of gasoline. This doesn't care about what kind of charging standards are being used through it, etc. It's just a mechanical device. And that's pretty brilliant. It passes data and it passes electricity, and that's all you really need. Anyway, due to that fact, as they say, NACS is very straightforward to adopt. The design and specification files are available for download, and you're welcome to take a look. Of course, I will put a link to this in the description. And we are actively working with relevant standards bodies to codify Tesla's charging connector as a public standard. Enjoy. So as I said earlier in my July episode, this is a very Tesla thing to do. They open sourced all of their patents. They couldn't just open source this one. They had to turn it into a standard because many companies would not believe Tesla, right? If they just open source the patent, then people would say oh, but they could close source it eventually and charge us royalties after the fact. But by turning this into a standard, it's out of their hands entirely, which was exactly the strategy that I suggested that they use. Again, I'm not taking any credit for that. I was just, it's like looking outside the window and saying, oh, it's sunny outside, right? It was just fairly obvious if you put the pieces together that this was the way to go. But anyway, I, for one, am really, really happy about this. And I hope that very rapidly this becomes the standard in North America at the very least. Because again, if you just look at this picture down here, all you have to do is look at that picture. It is really ugly. CCS2 is a hideously ugly thing. It's got this little plastic thing that you have to push down. It's got a spring. Things can break with it. It's much, much larger. It's much wider compared to depth, so it's much easier for it to put torque on the vehicle itself and on the cable as you're using it. So there's a lot more opportunity for it to break. So from an engineering elegance standpoint, there is just no question that now the North American Charging Standard, or NACS, is the way to go versus CCS. As I'm sure you can tell, I'm pretty excited about this, and I hope you are too. I think this is great. I really like to see good engineering win out. I, for one, am one of those people that thought that beta should win out over VHS and all of that kind of stuff back in the day, So it pains me when I see bad engineering actually becoming a standard due to stupid reasons. And the one thing that Tesla could have done would have been to hoard this technology and say no, we're not giving it away. We're not giving it away. And that would have just caused problems down the road because Tesla's solution is so much more elegant than CCS. But what we're getting instead here is a great opportunity. Perhaps it's about a year late or something like that. Maybe it could have been better if it was a year earlier. But if Tesla is specifically working with the network providers, the chances are that they will roll this out very, very rapidly. And then in the future, people will just have to get some sort of CCS to NACS adapter if they want to use their old vehicles with these things. So as always, when new standards come about, like if you get the new USB standard and you've still got your USB-A, connectors, you have to adjust, and it's a bit of a pain to deal with that. And a lot of car owners today who have CCS type charging ports on their cars are going to be annoyed by this. Now, it is possible that it could be retrofitted, but it's also probably not worth it. It would probably be cheaper and easier just to buy an adapter. But anyway, going forward, hopefully within a year or two, everyone will just settle on this standard. And then that will be the way that all electric vehicles go. And, in 8 or 10 years, that will be all vehicles. There won't really be gas vehicles anymore. So this is a really, really great thing. I'm super excited about it. I hope you are too. Everybody have a lovely Friday evening, and actually send us some good thoughts, because one of our dogs, Lily, ran away just about 24 hours ago right now, and we have not been able to find her. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that somebody will find her and bring her back to us. Anyway, everybody have a lovely Friday and a lovely weekend. I will see you soon. Bye-bye.